all you.
Whoa.
It's
Okay.
all you.
Are we talking to you or talking to?
To me,
Got
because
it.
it needs to look
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
And I'm not on camera, but you do need the audio.
Yes. Sean Dudas for the generic spot. You have Speen.
Stephen Sondheim is complicated and complex, and it's hard enough to convey emotions through spoken dialogue. So when you add Sondheim's music and lyrics to the process, how do you tackle that as actors?
You know, in some ways it's daunting, and his work is incredibly difficult and complex, but once you sort of lay a foundation with his music, it's actually incredibly helpful. You know, it's like being guided emotionally. So it never felt like, oh, you know, it's okay, it's this part of the song now, and like, how, you know, how do I perform this bit? And it's all like mapped out for you. Your emotional journey is mapped out for you in melody. And in that way, it's actually like, if you allow it to, it can help you so much. So needless to say, it's complicated and it's hard to learn. But once you have it, it just completely informs your performance and your character overall.
That's great. A lot of people would say that Into the Woods is Sondheim's most poignant work, and it deals with a lot of issues that are still relevant today. But there's always going to be a giant that we in the world of people need to sort of band together to overcome of one sort or another. Can you speak to that?
That really doesn't resonate with me at all, quite honestly. I think for me it's way more about, and the whole idea that these ideas are, the whole idea about it, I think, is that this is life, that this story tackles life's themes, whether it's now or thousands of years ago. It's it's the cycle of life: birth, destruction, death, love, sorrow, shame, guilt, all of it. And it does it in a really beautiful way, because you think our expectations going in is that they will be resolved somehow into this beautiful bow-tied kind of gift of this is what life's about. But he doesn't do that. It presents itself as one thing and then completely dissolves into this very kind of existential moment at the end with this newfound family going off, and you don't know what will happen because it's been portrayed in this world that many bad things do happen, but that is life. And that is, it's like, I mean, not to paint too fine a point on it, but this is something that it's almost like required watching for any human being. So children should see this, and I know oftentimes in high schools the second act isn't seen, but that's the beauty of this piece, is that in life bad things will happen as well as the good, but you can always move forward with hope. And I think that kind of story is, I just think, so important.
And sort of following up on that, the first act is about wish fulfillment, and the second act is about how your characters, the effect that your characters' wishes have on others, right? Can you explain how that relates to Cinderella and the Prince? Because obviously your wishes affect of the others, right?
Yeah, I mean, Cinderella is actually a trickier one, because I was talking to someone from Time, and you know, she was sort of saying like, well, Cinderella isn't culpable in the same way that the other characters are, but it's because she doesn't sort of commit the same kind of sins that the other characters do when they're on their quests, because in her nature she's kind-hearted, and you have to show that that's who she is. But it's about that when she is faced with difficult situations, you know, she doesn't want to make a decision. She doesn't want to make a hard decision, because sometimes you are in a position where you have two choices and somebody's going to get hurt one way or the other, and to just stand and do nothing is, you know, is not a decent choice. But it's, you know, she is along with some of the other characters, she's paralyzed, and you know, it's somebody like the witch, who we think of as a bad character. It takes somebody like her to say, you have to make a decision, you know, and live with those consequences.
Into the Woods is sort of unique for a film of its size and scope, because it was shot on location and sound stages with practical sets as opposed to CG and green screen. How did that help your performances working in the real environments?
Yeah, the production design on this film was extraordinary, and we worked on a soundstage that was made into a forest, and that for all intents and purposes was a forest because 5 steps
It was
in,
freezing and had dirt and.
Yeah. I was really quite something. So it was very, very helpful to have that magic feeling around as you were making, a film.
Anna, your Cinderella is not, you sort of touched on this a little bit, your Cinderella is not the stereotypical persona for a fairy tale character. Was that something that attracted you to the role?
Well, it's hard to say that the qualities of Cinderella attracted me to the role because just on its own, Stephen Sondheim would have made me want to do it. Rob Marshall would have made me want to do it. The cast would have made me want to do it. The music would have made me want to do it. And yes, as it happens, it's just an incredible character. She's so complex. She's definitely flawed. She doesn't have the same moral ambiguity at the beginning of the film that some of the other characters do, but she's definitely deeply flawed and indecisive and overthinks things, and that was just so much more fun to play with than some kind of very centered, very pretty, very sort of all-knowing and kind, and those are her only qualities kind of princess. It was, yeah, just a real blessing to play every shade of her.
Great. And Chris, just talk for a second about, this is the last question, about the line, I was raised to be charming, not sincere. How does that basically inform the character of the prince?
I mean, the prince is the idea of what the prince should be. He's not a fully formed human being. He is everyone's conception of the prince formed into one thing, metastasized, and then given a huge mirror and a camera and a 40-foot screen to preen. And that is his journey, is that whereas someone is being authentic, like Cinderella comes to a place of like, what do I want? And she asks her prince, what do you want and what are you about? And why did you act this way? He is a man that is living out a story that's already been pre-written, and he doesn't even realize it. And even if he does realize it, he doesn't care because there's comfort in that. And so he's not a brave man, and yet he's given this wonderful opportunity when Cinderella basically offers him this chance of becoming conscious and aware and fully formed and flawed and all of that, and he just can't quite do it yet. And he wants to be the chivalrous, shining prince in armor on a horseback and riding through the forest to save the day. And he goes on playing out that preconceived story, but there's nothing real about it. But I also think you can say that about, I've met plenty of people whose that line absolutely applies to. And it's just a reminder, too, of when you're, even doing something like this, that you always have the opportunity to open up to someone else. There's always that chance to do that. We put up screens, and that's great sometimes, but there's oftentimes that other opportunity of like, what are you about? And how did that make you feel? And we're living together in this world that, yeah.
Great answers, you guys.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks
both
so much.
very much.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate
Appreciate it.
it.